Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's November 28th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and I'm a little later getting to this today. Really, another range type day. It looked like we were going to rally today, and we ended up closing. We closed up a little bit from yesterday, but I mean, you can see it's just we zoom in here. It's just a big doji kind of day. There it is, right there. So kind of a neutral type day. We traded lower, we traded higher, but we closed not much higher at all. So just kind of a middling range day that we closed in the middle of the range. So let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart and take a look. Okay, here's a look at our 2,000 tick chart. You can see it was a range day. The overnight high and low turned out to be kind of a midline, and then we moved to measured move up. Earlier I had this much tighter because we did have a tighter range here, but we broke on out of that and we moved a measured move up, and then we sold all that back off and then just kind of stayed in the lower half of the range. We actually closed up in just above the middle of the range here. So interesting day. Looked like we were going to rally pretty good, and then suddenly it looked like we were going to sell off, and then we didn't end up doing much of anything before it was over. We did have a news item at 9 o'clock, consumer confidence, so I marked that off. Didn't really affect much, didn't really come into play, but you probably want to be out by 8:50 or so and just wait to make sure nothing crazy happens. We've been getting a lot of volatility off all these news items, but it's not really happening now, so it's kind of slowed down a little bit. But let's zoom in here. We'll work through the trades. You can see there's a couple of different channels I was looking at here. Um, I don't know if this blue one's correct. We certainly confirmed the trend line. Uh, maybe the upper half is not quite that far up. It does fit pretty good. It fits better right there in my opinion. And then that looks like an overshoot that reversed. So I'm going to leave it like this in the end because I think it fits better like that. The one to play was the green one, and of course this darker. I should have made this one a little different color here probably. Just make it just so it sticks out a little bit. But there you can see it. But we were mostly sideways early on. So let me zoom in here and we'll go through these trades. Okay, you can see we had two legs down early on here. We didn't quite get a measured leg, but we clearly got a first entry and then a second entry and a fairly decent bar way away from the EMA, and that's close enough. This is close to being green, but clearly with two legs down and the two legs up in the middle, there's a good chance we're at least coming back to the EMA, and it's a long way there. I mean, just from the top of that bar back to the EMA, you're looking at 4.5 points. So that turns out to be a really nice trade. It's like I said, it's close to being green, but if you notice that, if you clearly see the two legs down with the two-legged correction in the middle, being that far away from the EMA with a nice signal bar there, you're better off to wait on a higher low, which you don't get. So if you don't take that trade, you miss it. But you could probably argue for that to be green. But if you understand what's going on here and clearly see that second entry, there's a second entry on this level, and there's a second entry on a bigger level because there's two legs, and then there's two legs in the middle, and it's a measured move. So if you see all of that, it's probably worth trying to take that trade. So I like it. If you took that, you got a good head start real quick this morning, right at 7 o'clock. I think it was around 7:15 or so. Runs up, and then we're just chopping sideways. You would think we may try to retest this low, but this was probably the channel, and this is the retest here. So you may not get a retest, although you could. And it looks like we just chopped sideways really after that point. Nothing in there, just too tight. I think somebody asked me about this second entry. This too congested right there, and you've already had two legs down. Plus, you might expect a retest of the high of this channel. So that's just a dangerous place to go short. Let's see if it, I mean, it looks like it's close to having enough room. Now it's going to be a 5 tick failure probably. You only get 5 ticks out of it. So depending on how you entered it. If you entered one tick below the signal bar here, you didn't. You probably got stopped out on there because it tried 3 times to make that new low and couldn't, and then went higher. Generally, I tell you on a triple test to go long there, but you can't go long right into that resistance either. It's a little dangerous, so you just have to kind of ride that one out. But notice what happens. You get 2 legs up, and you get a second entry short right here. So if it breaks lower there, I like going back short on the second entry because this is played out. You get a failed breakout. You get a second entry short. There's several reasons to like that trade. And then we're just chopping sideways here. And we end up getting another couple of legs down and another second entry long here. Notice you pull back and you go first entry. There's a little pullback right there, but I'd still call that all one leg up and then a second leg. So even though your count may not give you a second entry here, I'm not sure if the second entry indicator would give you a second entry count here, but I like that. This high or low is tempting, and you may take that trade, but I was a little concerned with this resistance right here being in, it looks like a midline. You might argue for that to be green. I'd probably skip out on it, but there's some reasons to say, okay, I want to take that trade. Then, of course, it breaks higher and fails and turns down. And when it breaks lower there, that's a second entry short. So I like going short there because this has gone up, close outside, new high, and now you're working down. Close outside, new low there, but no real setup to get long. And then you're turning down at the highs again. You can't really go short there. The second entry triggered below this green bar, so this would have been a lower high. That's during the news item. I think you really still needed to be sitting tight. But notice how you're coming down, you get a break, new low, and you turn up there with a nice signal bar and another second entry. You got plenty of room back to the midline this time. I like that one. And this thing runs all the way back up. And there's a hidden second entry here, but this is actually just a first entry. And this was a lower high, but this just looks really congested. So I'm not crazy about taking it. If you took it, I'm pretty sure it works, but it just looks too congested to me. Yeah, you just do get out of that, really. But it just looks really congested to me. So, I mean, you might argue for it to be green. Because you've really got a triple test, although there's a big space here and not much space here. And this is really just a lower high. I don't even know because we kind of broke higher there. But we definitely got a triple test down here. And we also confirmed this trend line. So as long as you got room to get out before that high, you can take that trade. And I like that trade. You don't know that it's going to take off like that. But that's why we take our setups. If you take enough of them, eventually one takes off. And it's right off this key entry point. It's right off this triple test support. And notice we're kind of making a little higher low here each time. That's a good sign that we may break higher. Again, we're just playing for the scalp. But if you take this, you can get a runner on this easy. And you can ride this all the way up. If you can get that one trade today and just ride it till it turns down again. I mean, really, if you just rode it to here, that's 9 points. If you rode it to here, that's 11 points. So, really great trade there. And, you know, you could talk yourself out of it because of the resistance there, but just as long as you can work it out where you can get in there and have enough room, just take that trade. And there is exactly 6 ticks there. So it doesn't end up mattering because it breaks on higher, but there's 6 ticks there, so I like that trade. Of course, it runs up, you get a close outside, a couple of swings to a new high, and then you're just kind of chopping sideways. I didn't mark this trade. It's just a first entry because you made a new swing high here. But it does, and really, it just sets this trend line. It doesn't really confirm a trend line, but it's a failed break lower. So there's reasons to consider that trade. I mean, it's another one you might mark green, but I'd want a little better signal. I'd want an almost perfect signal bar there to go long, and maybe a little more room back in case it finds resistance there and turns down. Then you get 2 legs up and it turns down again, and where does it bounce? Right off that. It confirms that key entry point now, and it's also off this former support it's acted as support twice more with plenty of room to get out. So I like that trade right there, and it's a quick, easy scalp. And then notice what happens. You make a new low here, and you get a first entry, and you break out, and it fails temporarily. And you get a second entry, and where does it break off? It turns back up right off that key entry point again, and it gives you a nice signal bar. And if it breaks above there, you'll probably get a scalp, and it could go much higher. And you can see it traps people, and it runs up real quick, and it takes a little momentum before it pushes on again. But I like those two trades, because by that point you've got a confirmed trend line there. Normally I'd tell you wouldn't take a breakout pullback like that, but with it coming off that key entry point and being a failure on top of that, it's going to trap some shorts. Runs up, pulls back, takes off again, and then we get that basically a measured move up here almost, and we just start working sideways. And notice we're a good bit away from the EMA, so we try to go higher once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I like going short there. You probably couldn't get in that trade because it kind of gaps over, drops on down. But if you could get in there with a limit order where you would have put a sell stop, I'd be okay entering that. You got to have room to get out before that EMA though, because it could bounce and go higher again. And notice what it does. It just kind of works across that EMA before it drops. Comes back here and just gives you a first entry on an inside bar. I don't really like that. You can't really enter there. And there is a second entry here, but that's in the inside bar. We did get a little bit of an overshoot, it looks like. It's hard to say, but it looks like maybe it's an overshoot there, because you can see we're kind of working down that midline there. So that would be a reason that we might have come up slightly short here. But I just don't like entering on that inside bar. And you see it ended up turning into congestion. In the end, it goes lower, but you just don't know that it's going to do that. And you're just taking a big gamble there. But notice it comes back and turns down again right off that key entry point down through there. And I like going, and it actually breaks higher and fails and turns down. It's just a first entry. But I still like it because it's off the key entry point, the EMA, and it broke higher and failed first. So, and you could enter that on the engulfing bar. That's bullish enough. It's got a little stem, but I like entering that on the engulfing bar. If you wait till it closes, it looks like it still qualifies. There's a lower high here, again, another engulfing bar. I didn't mark it because you've got a double bottom there, really, but it's another one you might say, okay, this is going to trap longs. I'm going to try to enter on the engulfing bar. I don't think I'd enter after it closes, but maybe you enter that on the engulfing bar, hoping that it's going to keep going, and it does. It takes on off. It's tempting to enter long here on the second entry, but this is a pretty strong downtrend right now, and we don't even know where the low is because it's been lower each time. In the end, it looks like the midline's fitting really well here. So I think this was an overshoot, maybe a slight one here and then another one here. But you work back with 2 legs and you get a second entry short right here. This actually breaks higher and fails and turns down. Gives you a second entry. You could enter that on the engulfing bar or wait till it closes, either one. And runs on down and then bounces and you get your first break. I don't see any reason to be going long here yet. And you get a close outside new high, and then you're just kind of working sideways. There is a triple test here. I don't think there was enough room to get out. As you can see, it's one tick shy of having enough room to get out. Maybe it's really here. I think then it gives you enough. I mean, it would have worked either way, but I'm just not crazy about that one. I say in order to enter that one, you probably have to enter it on a limit order, wait till it breaks lower and drop a limit order and see if it'll pop back and give you an extra tick or two before it heads lower. You can't go short there. And then you get the failed breakout on a second entry long. Is clearly 2 legs down. They look like they're pretty much measured legs. You can see that. 2 measured legs down. So a second entry long on a failed breakout. You're better off to wait on the high or low. which again never comes. But I like these trades. They often turn out to be important lows or highs of the day, and they're usually good for a scalp and a lot of times a runner. And you would have got a runner on this and a quick, easy scalp, and you probably could have got multiple points on a runner there. And then we start working down. I just don't see anything here that I really like to enter short on. And then we bounce. You get a close outside, and we're into 230 before it turns down again. This one would be tempting. I don't think there's enough room to get out there, but you wouldn't know that ahead of time. See, it's another 5-tick failure, but that's a good enough reason why I'd want to wait on a lower high here, because even though that's a high probability, being that it's 230, it's after 230. If you get a loss here, you're in trouble. So you're better off to wait and call it a day. But there it is. There's still a good many trades here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all in the morning. There wasn't much happening after lunchtime. You got one trade right around noon, and you got a couple of greens after that. So, and you can see the volume really slows down again, and there's nothing. There's basically nobody trading after lunchtime. It doesn't look like. So, anyway, I thought it was interesting that I read somewhere today that I think it was Citibank clients or somewhere that bought $2.6 million worth of equities in the last couple of weeks. So that's probably had a lot to do with a lot of these rallies like this, but they're not sustainable. So there's no follow through. We run up, but that's why we're not selling off either. But you can see we run up. We did get a little rally here, and we kind of just went sideways ever since. So anyway, there it is for the day. Hope you had a good trading day. These days are hard. I mean, once it starts trending, it's not too bad. But when it's real tight like this, it's not easy to trade this stuff sometimes. So you want it turning consistently off this line, turning up, or turning down consistently off this line, and getting a good signal bar off of those lines as well. Preferably with at least 3 tests of it. So otherwise, when it's turning at different spots and turning in the middle and turning at the midline, it just makes it difficult to trade. So just keep that in mind. But we'll see what the rest of the week, if it picks up as the week continues, we'll just have to see. But I'm going to wrap it up today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.